And now, a special message from our administrator. When I started this, part of it was in response to having a lot of free time and trying not to get myself in trouble with it. I needed something to basically take up my time, and I also needed something that was going to be reasonably creative. And the initial efforts were different than they are now. I'm not going to say they're better or worse or worse or worse or much, much worse, but I am going to say that they're very different because I self affirm. But anyway, I wasn't showing as much of my humor. I was taking it much more seriously, and I was really taking the minis much more seriously. And I think since then I've become much more comfortable with embracing the ridiculous. But anyway, I was trapped in a pattern of work, eat, sleep, work, eat, sleep, work, eat, sleep. And that's pretty much all I did. I didn't practice all that much. I very rarely, if anything, played. And I started to do this so I would be more comfortable playing in public. I got over that fear and then kind of grew tired of it. Anyway, at some point, I went down the rabbit hole of analytics for YouTube. I think it was around 80 subscribers. All of a sudden, I started to track my progress and see how many people subscribed and how many people watched this kind of type of content. And could I do more content like that? And I started to do more and more things that kind of not necessarily became a slave to the analytic, but they sought that affirmation that YouTube creators get from time to time. And then I got my first dislike. And I was really hurt. I thought, who goes through all the trouble to actually dislike something? I mean, just move on. Why do you have to stop? And then I started thinking about it, and I thought, it's not like I haven't written a negative review or five in my time. So sometimes that's just feedback too. So the interesting thing about it is, in that I became more free, but I also became more of a slave. I started to study how to make the channel more of what it was, how to make it better as far as recording quality, as far as the audio quality, as far as the content that made up. I tried to get something that was going to be a bit more, it would gain more of a response, not clickbait, but at least something that might get noticed. And along the way, I forgot a rule that I learned from a friend of mine. You see, a friend of mine taught vocals. He was a great singer. He loved singing. He sang all the time. Matter of fact, it's kind of like Donkey and Shrek. It was getting him to shut up that was the trick. And he started teaching vocals. And over time, that thing that he loved became work. And one thing I've learned about myself is I have to love what I do. I have to love my job, or what I do as my vocation. I have to love that. Otherwise, I won't work at it. But also, if you want to ask any of my exes, I won't work at love. I'll live it. I'll embrace it. I'll absolutely go out of my way for it. But when it becomes work, when it becomes a duty, when it becomes a chore, that's when it becomes very difficult for me for prolonged periods of time. So I looked at my YouTube content and I realized I had 40 videos that were yet to go public. I was that far in advance. And I had gotten to a point where I had to keep to my schedule. It was starting to affect some of my personal life. I had mapped out what I wanted to do and what guitar I was going to use. In a very real and serious way, it had become work. And there is nothing that makes that more apparent than this guitar. Now, I know this is copper. It's covered in copper foil. It's had some grounding problems. It was my first mini mod, and it was the first real addition to this channel. It was purchased at a local shop. And I don't know if it's because it's been through 4 different sets of pickups. I don't know if the action continues to change on a regular basis as far as the neck goes. I don't know if it's because it cost me more than it should have, in my opinion, when I bought it, and I didn't find that out. It may have an evil spirit inside. I don't know. I just know that I don't like it. The problem is, in trying to be fair and representative of the guitars that are on the shelves, this one ends up at the last spot in the rotation. and it takes me forever to do something with it. Now, the last guitar that was like that was also a Mitchell. It was the little Les Paul that has since been rehomed, and interestingly enough, the person that bought it has since listed it for sale. But this one is kind of beyond the point of sale. It's been modified a little bit more than your average guitar. So it's going to stay here. I just have to figure out what to do with it, because I'm going to take it out of the rotation. Matter of fact, I'm going to take out the rotation. I'm only going to pick up the guitars that I like and the guitars that I'm in the mood to play. And I'm only going to post content. I'm still probably going to do that on a schedule because I'm me. But I'm only going to post content that I like, things that I wanted to see, or things that I'm asked about, or things that my tiny community that I'm a part of brings forward. I'm not going to chase the algorithm. I'm not going to chase the clicks. I'm not going to chase that kind of stuff. But I am going to have fun, much more fun. Because quite frankly, like I said before, if you enjoy this half as much as I do, well, then I've enjoyed it twice as much as you have. But if it's not any fun, what's the point? The experts that do this kind of thing for a living say that you have to make a choice. At some point, you have to choose whether you're going to follow the role or the road of content and go for likes, or if you're going to follow the road of contentment. Well, this is never meant to be more than a hobby. So thank you very much for playing along. And I look forward to not hearing from you.